So day 2 is just a little more information about what we covered on day 1. Okay, and a lot of the equation writing that we're going to do today is going to feel exactly like the same stuff that we were doing on Friday. What we have to understand are a couple different phrases. And the first one is parallel lines. Okay, parallel lines are 2 or more lines that go on forever in both directions and never intersect. They never cross. The space between them remains the same all the time. Okay, and I tried to draw a couple parallel lines up there so you get a sense of what that looks like. When I have parallel lines, the equations have some very specific characteristics. First off, parallel lines have the same slope. That's really important. Parallel lines have the same slope, and the y-intercepts are going to be different. Which means if I'm going to write an equation for a line parallel to the other line, and I know the slope of that other line, then I know the slope of the parallel line. So again, really important. Parallel lines will always have the exact same slope. And the y-intercepts will always be different. If we have 2 equations, 2 lines that have the same slope and the same y-intercept, they're the same line. Okay? So that's why it's really important to distinguish that the y-intercepts for parallel lines are different. Let's do an example. So, here's the type of problem that you're going to see. Okay? Write an equation of a line that will be parallel to y equals negative 2x plus 4 and goes through 3, 4. So write that down, and then we'll walk through how to do this problem. Every time I write a linear equation, what are the 2 things that I need? Slope and y-intercept, okay? So I got to find out what the slope has to be for the new line. So since we're writing an equation for a line that's parallel, what do I know about the slopes for this line and the new line? They're going to be the same. So what is the slope for this line? What is it? Negative 2. The slope is negative 2, which means the slope for my new line has to be negative 2. Okay? So, this is what I have so far. The new line is going to start off, my slope is negative 2. My new line is going to start off y equals negative 2x plus b. I want you to find out what the y-intercept is. Because at this point, it's just find the equation for a line with a slope and a point. Okay? So go ahead and do that and find out what b is. Alright, so what do I need to do to figure out b?
Plug in 3.
Plug in 3 for x, 4 for y. Okay? So I did that over here. Okay, this is negative 6. Add 6 to both sides, b equals 10. So this equation, y equals negative 2x plus 10, that's the equation of a line that goes through 3, 4 and is parallel to this. Okay? How many had that? Alright, very good. Questions on it? So again, once we identify the slope, it's the same kind of problem as what we did on Friday. Slope and a point. Okay, and once you have the slope and a point, you solve it the same way. It's in that sort of second category. Alright? Questions on that? Okay, let's talk about perpendicular. Perpendicular lines are 2 lines that intersect or cross to form a right angle. A right angle equals 90 degrees, and if you notice here this little box, that's a way that we, in math terms, we indicate that we have a right angle. The process to find an equation for a perpendicular line is very similar, except how we find the slope is different. Here's how we find the slope for perpendicular lines. Okay? Perpendicular lines, the slopes for those equations are opposite reciprocals. And what that means is they are opposite signs and the slopes are flipped. The truth is we don't care about the y-intercept anymore. They can be the same. you will still get a different line. So what we really focus on when we try to find the equation of perpendicular lines are the slopes, and the slopes are the only thing we really need to worry about. Okay, so this is the same stuff, the red's all gone. Okay, my question is, what is the slope of a line perpendicular to this line? Right? And in order to figure this out, in order to answer this question, I first have to identify the slope of this line. So what is the slope of this line y equals 4x minus 3?
-1/4.
The slope of this line is 4. Okay, let's talk about the perpendicular line. Oops. What will the slope be? So here's what you do, okay? Opposite reciprocals. That means you change the sign and you flip it. -1/4. Okay? That's all that you do to find the slope. And once now you have the slope of the new line, you proceed like you would before. Got the slope, now I got to find the y-intercept and I'm good to go. Okay, are there any questions about finding the opposite reciprocal? That will guarantee that the line, the new equation, the equation for the new line will be perpendicular. Okay? Okay, so we're going to write an equation of a line that's perpendicular. Y equals -1/5 x plus 4, and it goes through 1, -2. What is the slope of this line?
-1/5.
-1/5 is the slope. So if I'm going to write an equation for a line perpendicular, what will the slope of the new line be? Right, flip it, change the sign, +5. Okay, so the slope of the new line is going to start out like this. The slope of the new line is 5 because 5 is the opposite reciprocal of -1/5. Alright, now I'm back to this. I've got a slope and a point. Find the y-intercept. Go. Do that. Here we go. Plug 1 in for x, -2 in for y. Solve that. B equals -7. New equation, y equals 5x minus 7. How many have that correct? Okay, so the only thing new today is the idea that when you have parallel lines, they have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. But the process for finding the equation is what we did on Friday. It's the same thing, okay?